before we get started, I believe D, you want to say something before we get started?
Yeah, let me roll our beginning. It was set up, but
Okay.
something happened with
The
it.
intro. Go. Let's go.
Negative K, nothing further. Just Cheech Canby on the corner. That's a direct order. Do it now.
All right. Before we have a moment of silence, we're gonna have a statement from D.
Okay, really quick. Since the beginning of the year, we started doing our moment of silence, just to give a moment to those that have passed, and then I started doing some uh, every week. I was putting on the people that passed in the last week, and I've noticed in the last 3 or 4 weeks there have been more and more and more, and today we have 22. That's just in. I start looking when we get off at 5001, whenever we get off, and I go right up until the time we get on, and that's 22 that I know about, and I'm sure there's more. If you haven't had the opportunity to go to National Police Week, which I been an opportunity to go to, you realize how many law enforcement officers, just law enforcement. I've been doing some military, but just law enforcement around the country that pass away every year. It's in the hundreds, sometimes thousands. I know Texas is big with the numbers. Louisiana's big with the numbers. So just wanted to, before we do our moment of silence and have our moment of silence, just realize that we're losing. I know we know things are going on in the world, but we're losing more and more each week.
Yeah, boy, that's every time. I just don't know if I'll ever get used to hearing that, but thank God for it. Cheech, we're gonna let you do our disclaimer, and then we're gonna have Rich come back with our statement of purpose.
Thank you, Donald. Um, before we get started, wanted to go over a couple of things with everyone. Uh, First and foremost, want to let you know that the comments and expressed concerns made by members of Roll Call are the opinions of each individual. They are not intended to be legal advice or recommendations. You have to remember that the laws change from village to village, state to state. So please consult with your local police department or local attorney for any legal advice. Also, once in a while, we do display videos or photographs that may be graphic in nature. We use these to spark our conversations. They are not intended to offend any of our viewers, so we will let you know, or someone on the panel will let you know when we are going to play one. These videos are not the property of Roll Call. We get them from social media, like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff. So you all have access to it as we do. Also, the language used by members of Roll Call is very spontaneous. It comes from the heart. We each speak our truth. We don't hold back. You may see that once in a while we don't agree with each other, but we never take things personally, and we hope that you don't either. It's not intended to offend anybody, so please do not take offense to anything that we say. Thank you. On to you, Rich.
Thanks, Cheech. We are Roll Call Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. We're glad you're here with us today. We are a pro-law enforcement group. We're for equitable policing. We're against racism. As you see my hat behind there, Black history is American history, and Black lives do matter. And if you have any questions, if you're here with us live, come on up and we'll see if we can address that for you. We're glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheech. Thank you, Rich. We're still praying for JT in Orlando. We're praying for Cheech and his wife, Anna. We're praying for AC and his wife, Jeanette, who just celebrated their anniversary, their wedding anniversary. Congratulations, AC and Jeanette. God bless you both. I'm looking at those who are online with us right now. We have Ruth Caffrey, Donald Coleman, Richard Bowden, which you guys don't know. Richard Bowden is my first cousin. His father and my mother are the last living out of 11. His father is my mother was the baby. His father was the knee baby. So my mother is 86 and his father is 90. He's 4 years older than my mother. Still alive. Still alive. So we thank God for that. He's with us on today. Ruth Caffey, I did say, is with us on today. Beverly Wells is with us as usual. She's with us. And Rich Bowden's probably going to get us started. If someone has information on that, it says, an officer was shot and killed in Atlanta today doing a welfare check. How dangerous are welfare checks? And maybe we can speak about that before we go into what we have on our agenda. Just how dangerous are welfare checks? And it's probably as dangerous as a car stop. We just don't know. You go in there with your mind thinking that you're just checking on the welfare of an individual, and find out you just been bombarded with some in a war zone. I see D's hand went right up, so I'm gonna let you go ahead, D, and address that.
All right, just wanted to say the welfare check is up there with the domestic violence check. Sorry, Melba. I'm sorry. We think alike. When you're out there and you get any kind of check like that seems like it's light, it's not, because there's some reason somebody called you there. Somebody's not available. Somebody's not answering their phone. There is a problem, and I just want to reiterate what law enforcement does. We don't come there during the weddings. I always ask these questions. You know, you guys at a wedding, when'd you call the cops? And they go, no. So wait, you were having a good time and you didn't call a wedding? The only time they call the police officers is when there's a problem, when there's an issue. And I'm going to go further. When these people there that have known each other 40, 50 years can't work out their problems, now they expect you to, for knowing them for 30 or 40 seconds. So these things are the most dangerous because the unknown is the most dangerous. You never know what you're walking into. You never know what caused the person to need the welfare check. And that's why they're dangerous. I just wanted to say those couple of things.
Okay, Melba.
Just the stole my thunder because that's exactly the way that I feel about it. You go into a welfare check the same way that you would go into a domestic violence situation. Um, it's a whole bunch of unknowns, and you don't know what you're walking into. And the person that's calling, um, is probably on the fence about calling because they don't know what you're walking into, but they have reason to believe that there's a problem. There's a reason why they need to check up on that person. They're not answering the phone. They can't reach them. And they know that something's going on with them. Either it's health wise or either whoever they live with may not be a safe person for them to live with. And and to be honest, they probably will not give you all of that information over the phone because they do not want to cause alarm to the police. So we are still going in there blind because we do not know what we're walking into. So it's very dangerous. And I think we've been over this before on this show about how domestic situations, you go in there thinking that you're helping, and the person that you think that you're helping will be the very same person or the first person that turns on you in that situation. So it's very dangerous, you know. Oh, and also you're going into somebody else's home where they know where all this stuff is buried.
Okay. Will?
I can't add anything to that. They hit on all the points. It is, and I know we had mentioned about traffic stops and we had talked about domestics. This is truly, when you talk about a welfare check, that's pretty much all you get. I haven't heard from someone and you don't know what you're walking into. I liken it to some of the animal stuff where you see predatory animals. They don't typically go into dens of other animals that could possibly hurt them. We don't have a choice but to go into an unknown den where everybody else knows what's going on, and we're trying to figure it out inside of a couple of minutes, sometimes a couple of seconds.
EC?
Yeah, also, well, part of the danger is the person you're checking on didn't call you. They don't know why you're there. They don't know what's going on. So if there is something nefarious going on there, they think you found out. So they're on the defense already. So
Absolutely.
that's another reason it's dangerous. And also, side note, oh, Will, he stopped. He was holding his shade. He have a string up.
No, he had
I'm
his hand
teasing.
up. Okay, he has real quick before I go to Derek. We just had an incident within our fraternity where a guy's having mental breakdown. It seems like, right? And so one of the guys spoke to the mother, and the mother said, "Well, I'm gonna call his godfather because I don't want to call the police because I don't want my son to get hurt." Can you imagine not calling the police because you're afraid that your child who's going through an episode might get hurt or even killed? Can you imagine? That is like so difficult for us. It's very difficult. Well, no, we don't want to call the police. We'd rather call a family member or someone else, but the police is the last call, you know. Derek, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add on to what you were saying about people not wanting to call the police, I think the day before yesterday I put a video in our feed where officers went to someone's house to do a wellness check, and then they ended up beating up the person. And I mean, and nothing was wrong with the person, but they ended up beating up the person and arresting the person. And the person didn't commit a crime. There was another one that I didn't put in because it was too long. They went to a motorhome to do a wellness check on a 12-year-old girl. And, the father was outside talking to the police, and the daughter came outside, and the father was saying, if she doesn't want to be questioned, don't question her. And the police went over to question her, and because she didn't want to talk, they arrested her. She was 12 years old. She was 12. And obviously she was okay. She came outside, she was just fine. And just because she didn't want to talk to them, they unlawfully arrested her. But part of the problem or part of the fear, the danger to police is when you get there to do a wellness check, often if the person is okay, they don't want you there. They're offended by your presence. And two, if you have to get into a situation where you have to look around the residence, you don't know the layout. You are blind. Even if the lights are on, you don't know where anything is or where anything or anyone could be hidden or pop out from. So very, very dangerous.
Exactly. That's what Melba told me. I just don't know the layout
Yep.
of the place as well. Rich?
Yeah, just 2 points. A lot of times we go to these wellness checks and the person is already deceased inside. People start seeing that person hasn't shown up, normally comes out for this, mail's stacking up on the doorway or packages, and then a welfare check is called and the person inside is deceased. Secondly, sometimes you get a welfare check and there's actual criminal activity going inside the residence. So you show up there thinking you're going to check on somebody's welfare, but they got criminal activity, and then bullets are coming your way because they think you're there to arrest them for what they're doing. So, we never talked about this before, but I think this is really critical, and you got to keep your head on a swivel. Officers arriving don't know what's going on, like we all said, and I think it's actually worse than not knowing you're going to a DV call, because at least with a DV call, you kind of know the parameters of what you're dealing with. But with this welfare check, it's just a big enigma. It's a question mark. You don't know what's going to happen, with how you're going to react. You have to pull out your gun. I mean, there's a lot of things involved, so you have to really focus in when you're going to a welfare check. That's all I got.
All right. Jerry, that was domestic violence. Okay, all right. All right. I saw you make a face like, what did he just say?
But I've been around you guys long enough now. I got it. I did.
All right, okay.
It was a delay, but I did get it.
All right. At least you got it. At least you got it. Okay, let's move into the first video, D. We didn't give an order, and I don't know which one you prefer going to, but just let us know which one it is. We'll go to that.
Okay, I'm gonna go to we had a Maryland gentleman deported to El Salvador. I want to say his name right. Abrego Garcia. Did I say it right? Cheech, help me out. I want to mess it up. Kilman Abrego Garcia was deported to El Salvador a month ago, and he's in El Salvador. He just got deported for being deported. I don't think he did any crime other than just being here, but they deported him. The president was here this week from El Salvador, and apparently they can't get him back. A couple of people in the room have ideas of why they can't get him back. I'll let them talk about that. But during the presidential visit, the person who is presently in charge of this country suggested that homegrown criminals be deported to El Salvador. Yes, you heard it right. If you get arrested for anything, you might be on a plane to El Salvador. Let's take a look at this video.
At an airport in El Salvador, the latest group to be deported from America. 11 men, gang members, says the White House, but detained and removed to this mega prison with no evidence of their crimes, no judicial process, and no access to lawyers. They join hundreds already lifted from America and sent to El Salvador's notorious terrorism confinement center, one of the largest jails in the world. At a White House in step with this policy, a guard of honor for the president of El Salvador, the first Latin American leader to visit President Trump. Nayib Bukele styles himself as the coolest dictator in the world. Donald Trump likes him because there is a symbiosis to this relationship.
I want to thank you for the great job you're doing. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Bukele has an 80% approval rating in El Salvador. He's turned a soaring crime rate on its head, the world's most dangerous country to the Western Hemisphere's safest.
Sometimes they say that we imprisoned thousands. I like to say that we actually liberated millions. So, it's very good. Who gave him that line? Do you think I can use that?
The images, the rhetoric has pitted Donald Trump against his own courts, but he is doubling down and has ambitions to go further, to outsource American prisoners, American citizens, to El Salvador too.
I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country.
Among those already deported is Kilmar Albrego Garcia, removed to the El Salvador jail because of an administrative error. But the Trump administration says they don't have the legal obligation to bring him back.
Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country?
On immigration, President Trump can point to material successes since he took office. His hard line and his partnership with El Salvador has pushed crossings on the southern border for the year so far to their lowest level in decades. A meeting of minds then, two men who admire each other's methods, who share controversial tactics, who relish in causing a stir. There is advantage for both leaders in this relationship. El Salvador is getting paid for this outsourcing. President Trump gets results on immigration. But at what cost for the principles of due process in America?
All right, Jim and Rich.
Well, I'm trying to slow down with my doom and gloom. So I'm gonna try this a different way. First of all, the president of El Salvador is correct. His crime is way down. And as long as you don't care about human rights, civil rights, or constitution, and arrest anybody you want on any whim you want, and fill your jails, yeah, crime will be down. But I thought we were a better country than that. These people are being shipped out with no due process whatsoever. They have no lawyers, no day in court, no nothing. Now, I put in our chat earlier today that, look, we know as cops, and we've been frustrated all our careers, that the court system sometimes for a technicality, and we know a bad guy gets off. We know how frustrating all that is. But it's the Constitution. It's the law we live under. So when you start rounding up people that you yourself declare are enemies of the country or terrorists or whatever classification gives him that 1700s law that he decided to enact or bring back, he could do that with anybody and everybody. All he has to do is say, the Hells Angels are now considered terrorists. Round them all up, send them to El Salvador. Maybe one of your the noops. I'm trying to think of noops. A fraternity. We think the fraternity noops. Round them all up, send them out. No due process. This is dangerous. It's so dangerous. I can't even imagine where we're heading. I really can't. But everybody looks at that, says, look at all these guys, all these tattoos, MS-13 guys, good for them. Get them out of here. You don't have any idea what you're saying. You're unraveling our Constitution. That's the only thing we've got. That's all I'll say.
Well, you're right, Jim. And just because you said the noops, I got to say something about that because one of our newscasters just put a report on about the Divine Nine, and he did. And just like some of you have asked me, what does that mean? For some, it means white power. You see that means white power. And so what they claimed that he was a gang member. So he had to identify and explain what that meant to us as a Greek organization, So, but you're right though. A matter of interpretation could have you ended up in jail. I got Rich, Cheech, D, and Melba.
Yeah, Supreme Court took a criminal president and made him like a super predator. They gave him more power to be criminal. So now you can be scooped off the streets and sent directly to a prison based on him deeming you whatever he deems you. So it's just a sad state of affairs we have going on where people are scared that they could just be scooped up for any reason. So you can protest, freedom of speech, right? But if you protest, something can happen to you. They could deem you that you're a threat. Or if you talk crap about the president, you can get removed from the school that you're here on a visa on. So now you can't say anything. If you're here on a visa, going to school, you can't say anything about the government or about Trump, period, because they'll scoop you up like they did that woman and take you away. So, and now the courts are saying bring those guys back so they can get due process, especially the guy that was innocent that they knew they messed up on. And Trump is doing everything he can not to bring him back. But the judge ordered them to bring him back to show evidence why he shouldn't come back. And if you don't have it, bring him back. And he's saying, no, he's not going to do it. It's a constitutional crisis right now because the nuclear judge, the rule of law, overrides what the president's saying, but not anymore. So what are we doing? What are we going to do to Trump and his admin if they don't bring this guy back? We're going to have to wait till the midterms. You know, that's the way it is because they're not going to do nothing to him, which he deserves something to happen. But what do you do? I asked everybody on the panel, what do you do with a criminal president that's been given so much power to even be criminal as the president? What do you do?
And to go along with that, Rich, was stated even on the news that the ones that would enforce that would be the U.S. Marshals, but the U.S. Marshals on the executive branch. So, so Trump sit back saying, okay, you can say what you want to say. Who's going to enforce it?
Exactly.
That's where we are. So we're in a rough situation right now, but I still believe that change is on its way. Let me go with Cheech, D, and Melba.
Yeah, as Jim always says, these are dangerous times we're living in. I just got back from El Salvador, so I got a firsthand look of how the country is doing. Also what Donald Coleman asked a question on there. Why do they always have the so-called criminals forcing their heads down? Is that normal or not? So that's done at the jails over there, so that the criminals are not, inmates are not looking up at the officers and trying to intimidate them in any sort of way. It's also a form of respect that the officers are trying to push off on the inmates. So that's why they keep their heads down that way. As soon as they get to the jail, they are shaved. They don't want anybody standing out. So they are shaved right away when they get there. Anyway, you talk to the locals over there. Not everybody is in agreement of what is going on in the country. And that is because of human rights. They understand that, yeah, MS-13 and MS-18, because there's two big gangs over there, were in control of the country at one point. They had the country under their grip. They had everybody living in fear. They shook down anybody that was a business owner. They extorted, they kidnapped, and they killed. So, I understand to a certain degree of something needed to be done to take the country back. But now the U.S. being involved and doing what they're doing, in El Salvador, the president doesn't hold back on priding himself as a cool dictator. That was true what they said. In El Salvador, it's one term as a presidency. He is in his second term and looking to run again. So he changed the law on his own to be able to run again. It's a known fact in El Salvador that this presidency is looking to sort of become a monarchy where his wife, his brother are next, and it's going to stay that way. So that is kind of scary. There's a lot of other things going on behind the scenes in El Salvador. Now we're getting involved with them. China has a big stronghold in El Salvador. China built the biggest public library that's open 24/7 in El Salvador. It was done by China. They built a brand new dock with hotels and restaurants and everything, done by China, with all their people, all their workers coming into the country to do it. They are now just inaugurated a place called Surf City 2, El Salvador is big for the surfing community. Who's the one that's doing all the work over there? China. Just so you know, little history of what's going on behind the scenes over there. And now this president is like this with the president here. It's with the gentleman that the video we played today. He put in his paperwork legally because he was threatened by the gangs. So his life is in danger in El Salvador, if he's even still alive, because there are inmates that are dying over there left and right. The president himself had said that the only way they leave that jail is in a body bag. I think to date, there's only one person that was able to be released from that jail. But other than that, the only way you come out is in a body bag. They don't get taken to outside medical services. Medical services are within there. They're not allowed any medical services outside of there. There are no rights whatsoever for any of the inmates that are over there. So it is a slippery slope that we are in. And for us to be sending people from here, like Jim said, where does it stop? You know, who's going to be deemed an enemy of the state that can be flown over there and thrown into jail? And then the president of El Salvador himself says, once they're over there, they're not part of the United States no more. They're in my country. I do what I please, basically. So he's not going to release nobody. They're in his custody now. And he's got a contract with the United States. He's making money off of it. So he's not letting go. And if anybody was paying attention, our president turned to him and said, how many more jails can you build?
For the ingrown.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Thanks, Cheech. What do I have? D. Melba Mark.
All right, I'm not a big politician guy. I'm not a big political guy. I understand politics and I understand what's going on, but I'm a big history guy. I love history because it has a way of repeating itself. And I don't want to talk about anything particular for this moment because I agree with Jim about the Constitution. I agree with Rich about if you disagree, he said it this week, the government's going to come after you. Where did this happen before? Cheech, when did they round up people and put them in places where they were going to come out unalive? I'm not going. Forget what political affiliation you may come with, wherever you come from, what color you are, what religious distinction you are. For a minute, look at it, Google it. Look at history, and don't put in any particular thing. Put in what's happening. It'll tell you specifically when it happened before and why. And when you read down, things will become ridiculously familiar with what's going on right now. And I don't care who you vote for. I don't care who you vote for. I know many people that voted this way and that way. They're coming for all of you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. If you don't have $1 billion, if you don't have $1 billion and you can't help them out with $1 billion, you're going to get on a plane too. He doesn't care. It's not about one party or the other party or this color or that color. It's about this here. And it's about dictating and running things the way he wants to run things. And think of this, and I'm going to leave it here. When was the last time someone wanted to run things the way they wanted to run things, irrespective of the Constitution, irrespective of human rights, irrespective of any religion and moral? When did that happen? I don't know. I'm just crazy. When did that happen? Something for everybody to think about. Google it. Don't believe me. Google it.
Melba, your hand was up.
My hand was up. And, of course, Jim is right on point. Oh, before I even get into that, talking about homegrown criminals, we do have one who's in the office of the presidency with 34 felony convictions. So let's start there. Um, this these policies that above and beyond just the erosion of the due process that is enabled to us through our United States Constitution, which we pledge allegiance to the Constitution and not to the president. Um, anyone can be targeted by these policies that they are enabling. It's the subjugation of our First Amendment rights, um, as far as our freedom of speech. And last I checked, also in our Constitution, is we the people. We the people, not just the president, we the people. And so his policies are supposed to be reflective of what the people want, not just Elon Musk and these old farty ass Republican men. It is race-based labeling of what the definition is of criminal, or rather, I should say, it's not only just race-based. It like just like race, it is a social concept of Latinos are the ones bringing in all the criminals. Well, that's untrue, and we usually do a Crockett pocket. Jasmine Crockett said, I have worked in criminal defense, and I will say that it has been in my experience that the large majority of the people that that are either I'm prosecuting or defending have been US American citizens and not immigrant populations. So the numbers ain't matching as to what he's saying and who's actually committing crimes in these United States. They can't, it's no way, because most of them want to earn a legal path to citizenship. It is not illegal to seek citizenship of the United States. And the path to citizenship in the United States should not be sold off to the one who has the highest dollar. So think about this. This man has proposed already that for $5 million, he can expedite the citizenship process for those that have $5 million. But with the other hand, he's saying, let's get rid of this birthright citizenship. Like, you shouldn't automatically be a United States citizen because you're born in this country. Let's take away those rights of the people that are actually born here in this country, because somebody can come over from South Africa and pay for their citizenship. And, I think that they're better people. They're better suited to be American citizens. That's a problem. That's a problem. And to answer your question, D, let's go back to Germany. Let's go to where what they're doing in El Salvador is a concentration camp. And make no mistakes about it, because they go in, it's like the Roach Motel. The roaches go in, but they don't come out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a concentration camp. It's a concentration camp, and they're being denied food, or food is very minimum. They're shaving their heads, and they're not being released. So I guess those are all the points that I wanted to just touch on this subject. It's multi-layered problem, multi-layered.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Melba. Mark?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I just got a few questions. Cheech, you kind of sparked my interest in one thing. So you said the MS-18? Who is that?
That's another MS gang. There was two factions of MS in the country, MS-13 and MS-18.
So is SWP prevalent in El Salvador, or that's mainly in the United States?
No, unless they've been deported, and they would hide themselves really good because they're outnumbered. SWP was more of a Long Island thing.
Okay. Yeah. So my other question is, if law enforcement locks up people, say, involved in the mafia? Are they shipping them back to Italy? Is this going to happen in other countries too? Just curious.
Irish mob.
Exactly. Is that happening, or is it only with people who are brown? You know, and one thing I got to say, Mel, when they wrote the Constitution, we the people, they were only talking about white people. They weren't talking about the Native American who were already here. They weren't talking about the blacks that were brought over. They weren't talking about the Chinese immigrants who were brought over to work on the railroad. And then
I understand that. I understand that completely. And what I'm to your point, right? I want people that are part of this new Republican Party and the MAGA regime and the craziness. And I think some of them are starting to become enlightened on how quickly it can flip on a dime as to whether or not the social construct of them being included and white and necessary can be changed. Because soon after, as we see with all these people that are being rounded up and shipped off, all the Latinos for Trump that were like, oh no, we think he's going to be the best president. Guess what? Now they're feeling, oh, we feel like we were tricked. We duped. He lied to us. And I think that it would be in their best interest to open their eyes to that, because Native Americans, Black people, even Chinese people, any other immigrant group, unless they were drinking the Kool-Aid, are well aware how tenuous our or precarious our citizenship has always been, no matter how long our family have been in this country.
So I'm going to add to that by saying if they're a minority and they are drinking from the Kool-Aid, they still might be vulnerable, as in the examples with the Cubans.
It's not going to save them. The Kool-Aid is not going to save them. It's going to leave them dead like it did like those people who drank the Jim Jones juice.
Exactly.
All right, listen. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
No, that was it.
Okay. Richard Bowden says historically the USA has shipped mobsters to Sicily. Currently, most mobsters are U.S. citizens. Look at Melba's face. All right. All right. Good to see Michelle Kathy Jones. I know who that is as well. Thank you for joining us. Share it. Share this with your family and friends. Will, you got it. Good to see you, Dave. Thanks for joining us, man. I was wondering about you.
A lot has been said about this, and there's plenty more that could be said, and it winds up becoming repetitious. But what people don't understand is if you're going to take some action, there needs to be some repetition, because they're not getting it on the first try, they're not getting it on the second try, not getting it on the third try. We got to keep putting it out there. The thing that jumps out to me, and we kind of talked about this a bit in the chat, a lot of people don't realize this is an Eighth Amendment violation. The Eighth Amendment stipulates that persons, it doesn't utilize the term citizens, it says persons are entitled to due process under our Constitution. So that means anyone that is accused or believed to have committed a crime is entitled to due process. We won't even get into the context of cruel and unusual punishment, knowing where he's sending these individuals to. We won't get into the fact that this gentleman had already had a federal judge in a hearing ruled that the overwhelming justification for him staying in this country, given the threat that he would deal with where he came from, is justification for keeping him here. And he has been in compliance with every guideline stipulated within our immigration policy up until the time that they collected him a month ago and sent him down to El Salvador. And for people not to be listening when the gentleman that sits in the office of presidency has said, I want you to start looking into being able to receive homegrown people. and he's selecting these folks. The only criteria is somebody that doesn't agree with him. Now, I'm a big Marvel movie fan. I don't know how many more in the group are, but anybody familiar with the Marvel movie, The Winter Soldier, the one where they were conspiring with those helicarriers? They determined that Hydra was embedded with Shield, and they would get ready to launch those helicarriers that have the ability that once they identify someone that was a threat, that the helicarriers could basically pick them off with long-range guns. We are effectively having that very same thing happen now, not with necessarily the technology component of it, but effectively that's what he's doing, because he's already pointing fingers on a day-to-day basis. He could have somebody using an algorithm right now picking up the stuff that I posted on my Facebook page in opposition to the things that are happening and decide he wants to put a finger on me. He could do that. It ain't gonna go quietly, but he can do that.
That's why your wife is so concerned.
Hey Will, this young man is also a union member of at his job, and his union rep came on, had a big rally for him the other day, wanting their brother back here in America. So he's been abiding by all laws here. He's been a family man, a working man, a union member, and y'all know how I feel about unions. Going back to my dad being a union baker. Okay, I remember them strikes, man. Let me tell you something. They wasn't good, but everybody wanted their cake, so they settled them. You know what I mean? But
Dave, if you don't mind, real quick, I want anyone that's listening and anyone that we have this conversation with beyond our group to understand this. The administration has already admitted that they made a mistake. I'm sorry, they made a choice, but they made a mistake in sending him down there. And given that this person in the presidential seat prides himself on his power and his ability, and you mean to tell me when he's giving money to this other country, bringing one person back is not going to impact the money that he's sending to that country? The ruler of that country, there is nothing that's going to harm him by sending this person back. And he just came here. There's only one reason, you all. There's only one reason that
this young man was on that third plane. That third plane was still in American airspace when that judge ordered it returned. Okay, and by the way, on that third plane, there were also other innocent people.
Yeah.
Okay, people who never had a chance to prove their innocence. Okay,
the Supreme Court has said 9-0.
Yeah,
9-0. Now we're talking about a Supreme Court that he stacked the deck, and every one of them made their choice to support the lower court ruling that he must facilitate bringing this person back. This is the Supreme Court, the interpreter of our laws. Yep. 9-0. These are, what is it, 5 of them, 6 of them are his own appointees?
6.
9-0. And he's still, the only reason he didn't bring this man back, or he's not bringing this man back, when all of the indications would say he should, is he's not with us anymore. And I don't care what anybody says, if it ever comes out or somebody finally said, because we all know you don't necessarily have to have a body to prosecute for the crime of homicide, because if it is reasonable that the individual was in a situation of serious bodily harm or death, as he would be down there, and you haven't provided an explanation why he hasn't been returned, then the presumption is easy to prosecute that the only reason you wouldn't bring him back is because he's not alive.
All right. All right, Jim and Mark. Thank you, Will. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there's just a couple of things. The first thing, Will, just on that 9-0, if you watch Fox and get your news from Fox, Stephen Miller said it was 9-0 in favor of Trump. So all the people that watch those news, they don't think what you said was accurate, but they don't hear that. They hear the opposite. Whoa, Trump won the decision, 9-0. That's one of the problems we have, is the way the information is put out there. The other thing on the 8th Amendment, Trump took care of that with I looked it up, that 1798 Alien Enemies Act, which means that anybody that he considers, or any group that he considers an enemy of the country, doesn't get any rights. They can immediately be sent out of the country, and that's what he's using. Now, this individual, this last individual who they admitted they made a mistake with, to get him back, Trump would then have to admit of what the mistake was in the first place. And he's afraid, I'm sure, that that's going to open the door to all the other people he's got in that prison that he sent without any rights, without any justification, based on a tattoo or based on some informant or some other thing that it could open up, a Pandora's box. So he doesn't want this guy to come back at all. But you're absolutely right. We're in a position now that anybody trusts this guy to determine who an enemy of the country is? I mean, come on, this is scary stuff.
Very scary. Mark and Derek.
Yeah, just real quick. It's like playing Monopoly with a person who changes the rules all the time. I pass go, I don't get 200, I get 400. You pass go, you lose 200. You land on my property, I get your property. You got somebody who changes the rules. He says he has respect for the courts, but he doesn't. We're just in a bad situation that the people who created this country had no idea that you would get somebody so devious in office and do the things that he's doing. Anything that he can do, that he thinks he wants to do, he's doing it. And I dare anybody, his attitude, I dare anybody to challenge me. So that's where they are. That's where we are.
Scary times, Mark. Derek?
Yep. And Trump says he has respect for the courts. He has respect for the courts only when they rule in his favor. And as far as Abrego, Trump doesn't care that he's innocent. He cares that he's a minority, and he doesn't want him here. It doesn't matter whether he committed a crime or whether he's part of a gang or whether he never did anything in his life. Trump doesn't want people that look like that here, period. Or that look like us, for that matter. And I think that's why he wants to lean into the homegrown issue, so he can target minorities that aren't criminals or aren't in gangs. He just wants to target everyone that doesn't look like him.
All right. Listen, guys, from the very beginning of this show, in 2020, you've heard me say this phrase: we're moving to the land of lawlessness. You've heard me say that over and over and over again. And I'm starting to hear lawlessness so much now, and I'm starting to see it, that we're moving to a land of lawlessness. And when we get to that point, every last one of us are in danger. Every last one of us. Thank you for your input on that. I don't see anybody from the chat that had anything to say about that per se. So let us move on to the next video, D.
Your statement was apropos.
Okay, lawlessness. Okay.
You're moving to the land of lawlessness. We're going to go to East Cleveland, where 3 police officers were sentenced for crimes. I want to say not crime, but crimes they committed while they were on duty. Assault, tampering with evidence, and telecommunications fraud. They were arrested and they were sentenced this week. Let's take a look.
Well, 3 former East Cleveland police officers were in a courtroom today. These gentlemen took an oath to uphold the law. They did anything but that.
Yeah, the judge really threw the book at them, making it known that it's unjust. Poor policing is just unacceptable. First at 4, 19's Katie Trisick is taking us inside the courtroom.
Today, 3 former East Cleveland police officers were sentenced on corruption-related crimes between 2020 and 2023. No mercy was shown for Ian McInnes, Anthony Holmes, and Larry McDonald. Cuyahoga County Judge Sherry Midday sent them all to prison, calling their actions unjust.
These children growing up in East Cleveland deserve to have role models And in a lot of communities, the role models are the police officers. And they are the people that we tell our children to go to for help. These kids are afraid of the police officers in East Cleveland.
McInnes physically attacked 3 men on 3 separate occasions while they were being arrested. McInnes got 2.5 years in prison. One of the victims was 16 years old. His mother sharing how this has traumatized her son.
Kicking them and stomping them, drug them on the concrete, giving them a surgery, brutalizing him like that, like he wasn't nothing, like he was an animal. That's terrible. And now he's scared, on medicine for the rest of his life.
McDonald was involved in a pursuit after a traffic stop, and the pursuit ended when the victim crashed into a bus stop in Cleveland. McDonald saw the crash but left and didn't report the incident to dispatch. He got 4 years in prison.
I've been just watching him, and he hasn't made a face. Like, all the things that you've done, you don't care at all.
Anthony Holmes will serve 1 year in prison. During a pursuit, he struck the victim's vehicle and told another officer to say the victim had struck his vehicle. In Cleveland, Kate Tursek, 19 News.
I mean, as a parent, standing there, that's hard, you know, to see that your child's getting beat up like that and beat like that. I mean, any parent, I don't know, man. This stuff is getting crazy. Let me just read this real quick. Karen says, I'm sure that the Supreme Court justices are not in favor of their lower court colleagues being targeted at their homes by random police pizza deliveries. And then Eric Jones says, we're not moving to a land of lawlessness. We're there already. That is so true. But let me get to I think I had Derek. Did I get you already, or I didn't get you first?
Dave was up first.
All right, so I got to cross your name off of here. So Dave and then Derek.
Yeah, good riddance. You know, the cover up is the worst part of the crime. Okay, you chasing this guy. Okay, I'm sure you have authorization to chase him. He crashes and you drive right by him, not knowing if he needs aid or not. You already got him. He crashes. He's a collar. Now go give him aid. How many of us on here, okay, had perpetrators who were injured? We had to call EMS right away. A lot of us. Okay, they treat dogs better than human beings. Okay, treat dogs better than human beings. I've been told by perpetrators, yo, man, thanks for treating me like, respecting me when you locked me up. I know I was an asshole. You know what I mean? And I know we got into a little scuffle, but thanks for treating me the way you did. Let me see my children and my mom when you brought them in here for me. You know what, man? They might be the ones to save your life when you need a 911 call when you're in the street. I got taught that by old black dudes, the Vietnam War veterans, and a couple old white guys. When I got hired, they were all Vietnam War veterans, and they said, "Listen, when the fight's over, when he's cuffed up, treat him like a man. Okay, bring him in because he might be the one to save your life when you're in trouble." Okay, and these young guys nowadays, man, black too. You see them, man. They got no business on this fucking job. Period. NYPD lowered its standards. Come on, they lowered their standards. When we got hired at NYPD, shit, man, they went back to 6th grade with me. Okay, they came to the neighborhood and interviewed people.
Yeah.
They picked out who was lying and who wasn't. Okay, they went to my church congregation and talked to them. But now they just, you know, we had 38,000 members. And let me tell you something, y'all. No matter how big your department, I'm not going to go with ours. At the time, we had 38,000. There ain't no 38,000 angels on that job. You know that's right. It ain't no 38,000 angels in that job. You're never going to get the picture perfect department. And that's not going to happen. Anybody on here thinking, now listen to this, who think that, you're wrong. You don't know, you're chasing moonbeams. Okay? You're not going, if you got 1,000 member department, you ain't going to have 1,000 angels.
That's true.
You got a 50-man department, you're not having 50 angels. Okay? But, you know, this is what I'm talking about, man. And these guys sitting up here with no expression on their faces at all. No remorse at all. And they enough. They got a little slap on the wrist. Come out and be truck drivers, get a CDL, and be a truck driver. You good. You know, but the way you kicking this young man, the man's on his knees, you're kicking and stomping him. Come on, man. Come on. We weren't even allowed to write women with children, women with children in the car summonses unless we had to, because we didn't want the cops, our delegates, to say, we don't want the children growing up to hate the cops. So don't write mommy or summons if you can avoid it. Those days are gone, man. All the jobs are young. Nobody walks a beat, walking and talking, speaking to the store owners and residents. None of that. Everybody comes out of the academy, put me in a car. Okay, there's no accountability. The street bosses, the sergeants, how come I never see them around? We had some shit. You know the lieutenants and the sergeants were coming. They didn't even have to announce it on the radio. And they took charge when they got there. I mean, man, this is just disgusting, man. And you know what, man? I know Cleveland has been a shithole, but come on. Enough is enough. I'm done. Go ahead.
And you know, Dave, that's why we come on week after week to remind people of how it should be compared to how it is. And that's what we do. I don't know how much of an effect it has on people, how many people are really getting it, but that's why we do this. That's why we do that. Melba comes on and tells us our statement of purpose, you know, which is why we do what we do, you know, and most of us were in law enforcement already. You know, of course, we do have civilians, and the reason why we have civilians on our panel and that join us because we're not the only ones that are right. Civilians have a perspective as well that we also need to hear, and so that's why we do it that way. Let me go with Derek and Will.
Right. So speaking of the statement of purpose, I know it said that we're pro-police. And I think that should be amended to we are pro fair and equitable policing, because there's a whole lot of police that I'm not pro on. And obviously, when we see people like these officers that are stomping people and doing things like that, I don't have their back. I'm not for them. I don't want them in our community. I think we should be pro fair and equitable policing. And there was one thing that the mom said that stood out to me when she said he was treated like he was an animal. This isn't just in law enforcement. This is something that permeates society, period. It's something that we hear Trump say anytime he talks about a minority, anytime he talks about an immigrant, he calls people animals. We've seen it in the NBA and the NFL, where if NBA players, and particularly when Ron Artest and Steven Jackson got into that fight in the stands, NBA players, when they fight, they're animals. NFL, when they
He froze on us?
Yeah.
I froze?
Oh,
yes, you did.
Wow, okay, so
it was that, it must be the Walmart Wi-Fi that you purchased the other day. It must be that one.
Yeah, so I don't know what I last said or what you last heard.
Ron Artest and Steven Jackson.
I was saying, so like when Ron Artest and Steven Jackson had the fight in the stands, the malice at the palace, they were animals. When you see black players in the NFL or the NBA get into a fight, they're animals. But in hockey, where it's predominantly white, they actually have players on the team that are called goons. They're called goons. That's their job. Their job is to fight. But they're not animals. And the whole thing is because we're perceived as being animalistic because we're black. And it's in society. It's not just in policing. It's in policing as well, because police officers are society members. So it's not going to change. It's always going to be that way. It's being said right now about the kid Carmelo Anthony. It's being said about him right now. Yeah. So it's just it's one of those things. We will hear it as long as we're alive.
Melba wanted to say something to your comment. Go ahead, Melba.
Yeah, because I actually do. I'm a strong proponent that words actually do matter. And when we first started, we went back and forth on our basic tenets. Quite often they were debated. And so our actual wording is that we all do believe that there is a place for law enforcement. And so we are in favor of law enforcement, not pro-police. We are in favor of law enforcement. And I remember it was like a whole hour. We went back and forth on the difference between fair and equitable policing. And equitable policing does not always on its face seem fair, but it's equitable, meaning that it equalizes based on the circumstances that each person it meets where it needs to meet, versus where you may think something is fair, but it's not necessarily fair for the person. Say, this you want this piece of candy, it's only a dime, it's 10 cents. And that seems fair to the person that has 10 cents. But for the person that does not have 10 cents, it is not fair. And that's the difference between being equitable and being fair. So we actually had gone over the language that we use. And of course, always we talk about how we are anti-racism, which unfortunately, as Mark pointed out, is webbed into the fabric of our country and our Constitution, where we weren't even considered human enough to be considered to be part of we the people. But we here now. So we are the people. And I think that that's an important distinction that we need to make clear and make loud, and not and push back against any language that continues to try to define us as being animalistic. There's a reason why they want to destroy our education department. There's a reason why they want to keep pulling up the same tropes that they do for Black women. Jasmine Crockett in particular. Oh, she's ghetto. Oh, she doesn't speak like she went to an Ivy League, or she went to private school. She is authentically herself. Her dialect is reflective of where she grew up, and she is intelligent, and she speaks straight facts. And they cannot dispute the facts that she's speaking, so they continue to try to attack her character.
Yep.
So, and of course, we always say that Black lives do indeed matter, because they have not in this country.
Thank you so much, Melba. I'm going to come right to you, Jim. Give me 1 second, because I just had to delete. Oh, Jim, I see Jim and Rich. I just had to delete a comment on our page. Jim and Rich. I got to write these names down. I deleted because I need everyone to understand this that's watching us. If you come on this page with your personal agenda, your personal advertisement, other than what we're discussing, I'm deleting it. I'm just letting you know up front, this is not the place for your personal stuff going on, to put it on our page, trying to reach the people that we're speaking to about another issue, and you come up with a whole different issue. This person came up with another issue about calling someone to cure cancer and heart and diabetes, all this medical stuff. That's not what we're talking about. So I deleted it, and I'll delete anybody that comes on here with another agenda, period. All right. So real quick, I know I got you, Will, but I got two hands that went up. I don't know which one went up first. I got Jim and Rich, and then Will.
Sorry.
Can I read Carl Dehaney real quick? Carl Dehaney is a pastor now, and in another state. He was here. He was with the sanitation department as one of the commissioners. He says, hearing your all's perspective on modern policing, especially in our communities during these times, is invaluable, greatly appreciated. So just want you guys to know there are people who appreciate the conversation. Go ahead, Jim, Rich, and then back to you, Will.
Yeah, I just want to expand on what Melba was saying about equal and fair, because that's something that I have dealt with many times in the past. The whole concept is this: what is equal is not always fair. The key word is fair. You must always be fair. You don't always have to be equal, but you must always be fair. That's why the entire affirmative action plan way back when was brought into being, because it was equal. You had the same equal chance to do something, but it wasn't fair because you didn't have the assets or the education or the training or all these other things that white people had. So it wasn't fair. But so you have to always be careful, because the word equal sounds good, but it's not. It's fair is the word you're looking for. Always be fair. You know, we always do it in police discipline. Do you mete out police discipline equally? No, you mete it out fairly. You don't treat everybody the same. One guy this could be his first time doing something. The other guy did it his 10th time. You give him the same thing? No, you be fair about the punishment. So the word is always fair.
Jim, you know I used that before with the same example you used. It was part of the sergeant's exam, equalness and fairness. And you have one guy that's been coming to work late 10 times, been late. This 10th time, you done had enough. But now, Donald Butler comes in the first time late. Equal means I'm giving you both 5 days.
Exactly.
Fairness means, no, you done it 10 days and I'm getting you.
That's right.
But I'm giving you a break.
Right.
You know, so I agree with that statement. I've always kept that in mind. Always remember fairness over over equality. Right. Fairness over equality. I've always kept that in my mindset. Rich, I'm sorry. Hey, Will, you're being patient. Thank you for being so patient. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to comment on Derek's comment about animals. You know, we talked about the sports difference between hockey and, but I as soon as he started talking about the animal comment, it just took me to January 6th. These January 6th injured 140 cops, caused 5 of them to die. On top of that, they're scaling the walls. They smeared feces on the inside of the Capitol, but they're not animals and they're deserving to be pardoned. Hello? No, the difference is those animals were white animals that were backing the biggest criminal president in history. That's why they were pardoned and not considered animals. But their activity was animalistic. And I don't know anybody who's smearing feces on the walls of the Capitol other than these particular white animals that are backing Trump. And I mean, 140 officers killed. I mean, injured, 5 caused to die, but they deserve pardons.
Right.
I think they should be going. Some of these guys should be going to El Salvador. So I mean, that's where we're at. That anything that we do, anything people of color do, is animalistic. But when white people do it, they're patriots. It's fucked up.
You're right. You're right. I just couldn't say that, but you're absolutely right. Will, go ahead, man.
The video speaks for itself as far as what the officer did, the punishment, it speaks for itself. But the problem is the representation. Every time something like that comes up, it becomes a stain in the representation for all of us that either did, do, or will wear the badge. And it's always something to overcome. So I'm sure all of you all in your departments can remember when the time changed and they started posting mission statements and vision statements and core values and all of those things. About the same time, at least the department I was in, there was a curriculum guide that came out from a researcher out of Tampa, Florida. and it was called Fair and Impartial Policing. I know we've said fair and equitable, but this is called Fair and Impartial Policing. What we're seeing now is a change in the mentality of individuals. I've heard so many officers say, I don't want to stand this. I'm not going to recommend anybody in my family go into this because it ain't like it used to be. Well, what is it? That's the same. That's synonymous with Make America Great Again. When I hear you say something like that, you wanted to go back to the way it used to be. We're in a different time now. And the individuals that we need to get into this profession have to be some of the most diversified of mindset of any singular profession out there, period. And I say that because we're the only profession, y'all probably heard me say this before, unless somebody knows different, we are the only profession that is originated and rooted in racial bias through the slave patrols. That's the origin of the profession here in this country.
Boy.
That's the origin, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. That's the origin of profession in this country. So we are always going to be fighting uphill battles against history. And whenever we have missteps like this one individual, it doesn't set us back 1 or 2 steps. It sets us back 10 steps because it emboldens other people to say that that's what should have been done to begin with. And then yet others that are coming up that are understanding the times that we're in, that's not the way we're supposed to do it. Now, I've been a facilitator for fair and impartial policing. I've been an instructor for subject control and arrest. The terms that come to mind for me when I look at that situation are the force reasonable and necessary to get the individual under control. Nothing more, nothing less. And you have to have the presence and the capability to articulate the things that you did. And the other component is the fair and impartiality piece of it. I understand why it can be difficult not to make things personal, because in order for us to be into these crisis situations and expect us to have solutions, then it does become personal, because now that baggage becomes our baggage. But we are still, and we have still taken an oath to uphold the law. And everybody knows this terminology. You mentioned police, the first terminology that comes to mind is what? Protect and serve. And I'm done.
Hey, Will, you're on point. You know, I have not heard that phrase, slave patrol, since we started. We started talking about that. I think it was Derek that started talking about slave patrol, the law for the purpose of police and all that stuff. That it's man, and then here you come right now in 2025 talking about stuff we've been talking about for 5 years. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Cheech wanted to make a comment, want to respond to a comment that was made online. Go ahead, Cheech.
Yeah, earlier Richard Bowden said there is no need to send anyone to another country. We have enough empty and shuttered prisons in this country. Americans need the jobs. States can use the money. That's kind of that shows you what this administration is doing. They're talking about, bringing more jobs and creating more jobs here within the United States, yet you're giving money to another country to do something that can be done here. And if you're sending somebody to another country, all right, if they're getting deported, that's one thing. They're going back to the country. We shouldn't have to pay for that because you're going back to your home country, right? But if we're sending people that are citizens or even if they're here undocumented and we're going to hold them from another country, and now we're paying El Salvador to go over there, well, isn't that the whole thing about sending jobs overseas? So yeah, Richard Bowden definitely has a point there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you see my chat? Okay, just keep that in mind when we're going through this. Thank you thank you so much, Cheech. Can we do one more real quick? The Memphis officials creating Cheech, you on mute. You on mute.
It's a good thing. Yeah, let's do that one. Just in what we're talking about. So folks understand when police departments or police entities are held accountable, they have certain options before the state or the feds take them over. This is one of them. They can create a new police reform task force. The next step would be the consent decree. We can talk about that later. To where you have to answer the consent decree to the government. But let's take a look at what Memphis is doing.
All right, so instead of entering into a consent decree with the Department of Justice, the city of Memphis has their own idea now to create a 9-member task force, and that's going to basically oversee police reform. And this is all stemming from the horrible beating death of Tyree Nichols and the DOJ's investigation of their patterns and practices and finding that MPD was in violation of people's civil rights. So let's get into it. We do have a list here of some of the 9 members that were appointed. It's going to be headed by former federal judge Bernice Donald. Some of those names are on now. It's a total of 9 members. There we go. Those are the rest of the names. So I just want to go ahead and ask Otis, you can start us off. Any of these particular names stick out to you?
Oh, sure. And they're well-known people in the community. I mean, and you start with Judge Donald. I mean, she's been a judge at almost every level. Since 1982, she first got elected to General Sessions Court and then has gone to bankruptcy, federal judge, appeals court judge. I mean, she's top drawer here. And to have her be the chair of this task force speaks volumes, first of all, about her integrity and how they want this to be a process that people can embrace or at least believe that is highly credible. Plus, you got Tony Armstrong, a former police director, who's a part of it. You got Keith Norman, a pastor. You've got Rosalind Nichols, who's also a pastor in town. And you got Daniel Keel, who is over at the law school as a law professor. I mean, these are quality people, but here's the deal here. They can do a great job here, and I think they will do a great job of looking into what needs to happen in terms of reforms with the police department. But it's going to be up to the police department itself, with input from Mayor Paul Young, to see if those recommendations are indeed implemented. We know now that the Justice Department is not going to get involved in this. A new administration has come in and they don't really care about much of this. So it's going to be up to the city and it's going to be up to the police department to agree to enact some of these reforms if the public is going to believe there's going to be meaningful change in the police department.
Absolutely, and you did touch on some of the kind of the work that some of these members are in. So former law enforcement leaders, of course, pastors, law professors. I really actually thought the mental health experts stuck out to me.
Right.
And I think that's really important because that's Dr. Audrey Townsell. I feel like there's a lot of mental health aspects when we talk about police reform and behavioral issues and all of that.
Especially with the youth, because that was part of the report from the Justice Department.
So there is a pretty wide variety of expertise made up in this 9-member task force. Do any of the names or any of them stick out to you?
I mean, I think it's certainly interesting. It's very notable that Amber Sherman, a local activist, reform advocate, is on the committee. It's certainly drawing attention from the right, who are not a big fan. Some on the right are not a big fan of Amber. At the same time, one of the things that I would like to point out, and I think is going to be interesting, and Otis just touched on it, is like this exists outside the legal system. Not entering into a consent decree means no federal judge is the final arbiter here. Right. This is really up to the police department. It's up to the mayor, who oversees the police department, to implement these things. And also, to the point I made earlier, the city of Memphis isn't rich with resources. They're not flush with cash. And so when you read that scathing DOJ report, and it is a chilling report, you see that the police are a Band-Aid on many of the ills that afflict Memphis, Tennessee, right? And you mentioned mental health a second ago, Pepper. And that, mental health is, the police are responding to these calls, and they're not necessarily the people that are equipped for that.
That's right.
And so if the task force comes back, say, and I'm just speculating here, with we need a better unit or some entity to help those who are suffering from mental illness, how do we pay for that? Right. That's the real question, because a great piece of paper can fall and get dusty for lack of resources.
That's exactly right.
And how do you think that the public's input should be on this? Should this task force hold meetings every month, or just how do you all feel that the public it'll help bridge the gap between law enforcement and their trust in, or the public's trust in law enforcement?
Well, I think that they will meet among themselves, first of all. Obviously get very organized and set up a plan for how they are going to go about their work. I would expect at some point that there would be some public meetings, although, you know, if the meetings that we had with the school board is any indication, we don't need a bunch of arguing going on there. What we need are tangible solutions, tangible expectations about how the police department should go about its reforms. If that happens, then I think the task force will have been successful. But Sam hit the nail on the head. Again, it's up to the police department to agree to try to enact some of these. And if it's too costly, that's one thing. But if it's not, a lot of it is just a matter of training and a matter of a mindset change here that you are a police officer to protect and serve, and not to harass and beat up people. And so we'll see what happens with that.
In the past.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have 2 more hands going up, and then we'll be saying goodbye until next week. So I'm gonna go with Will and Dave in that order.
So try to keep this quick. I like the idea, and given what we got going on with this current federal administration, it makes perfect sense. It makes sense in regards to financially and having somebody homegrown. Here's the problem. When you're talking about behaviors and relationship with the community, both sides have to have individuals or a group that they can have some validity with and some trust with, and impartiality is crucial. And it's kind of ironic because here we are, a group of retired law enforcement and criminal justice professionals. It is an organization like us that have worked in environments that have some similar issues that maybe Memphis is dealing with, but we don't have any stake in the game, whether we are local clergy, local politician, or behind the scenes. We could be truly impartial with that. And I've already seen, listening to that interview, there's going to become some concerns about the level of impartiality from that group, either individually or as a whole. And so when I think about that, I think about the benefit of us as a group, for people that want to tune in, and us looking at these situations and helping to shape and give perspective about how we have to go about doing our business at this job, and how much we truly care about doing it the right way for our citizens and the public that we serve.
Thank you, Will. Dave, close us out.
Yeah, point, Will, man. You said a lot of things that I wanted to say, but I'm glad they have a judge on the panel, a couple of clergy, a psychiatric expert, what have you. But I just want to see how they I just want to see them in action, okay? Because when some cop down in Memphis, there's some big ass dudes down in Memphis. I know, I played down there in college. When some cop is out there, got to go hand in hand with somebody. Okay, are you going to be looking to be? He has to bang back. Are you going to be looking to make him a number, or are you going to be impartial here? Or why he had to do what he had to do? Okay, and that's what that's what I'm concerned about. Derek said this. Derek said something way back that was very important to me and all of us on here. I'm going to shut it down with this. Derek said, we are law enforcement. We're not psychiatric doctors and all this other stuff. We're not. We're law enforcement. Okay, so I know it's a new thing starting, but hopefully it can be new and build up over these years until we get a real administration in office. Well, hey, you can get some federal help to assess your what you may need down in these cities. I'm done.
All right, D, I don't know if you have a rocket pocket or wait a minute, I was done. Are you serious?
I just want to remind you when you pray us out, Don, to include the victims of the Florida State University shooting. That's all.
Okay. Okay. D, you on mute. I think you love your mute button today, but go ahead.
It's doing it on its own. Mark sent one out earlier. It's actually a good video to end on, and then you can pray us out. Sound good?
Okay. That's what I want to do. Just want to get a video in and go home.
Broken taillight back there. Can I see some ID? What are you reaching for? The thing you asked me for? What? You didn't use your turn signal back there. Let me see some ID.
I am going to reach down now, slowly.
Don't be stupid! Don't be stupid! Very funny. Registration? Fuck. License registration. You have a firearm on you today, sir?
This is an open carry state, sir, and there is a firearm in the glove box.
All right, let me see it.
Okay. Ah, you got me.
You have a firearm on you today?
No, sir, just a book. Yep.
You holding a firearm? Are you holding a firearm?
Right now?
You got a cracked windshield. You did a rolling stop. Stopped too long back there. I'm stopping everybody with broad noses. See if you match a description.
Where are you headed?
My mom's. Then work.
Got a call about someone matching your description.
I didn't do anything.
Get on the ground.
For what?
Where are you headed?
Really? A man of the Lord. You got an APB out on grilled cheese? No matter what I do, no matter how I act, no matter what I wear, you all are still gonna shoot me?
Get down on the ground.
Uh-oh.
You can't beat them. Join them. I mean, it's not like they're gonna shoot one of their own, right?
License and registration, please.
Oh, hello! Excuse my face. I'm doing a last-minute face mask.
Well, you drive safe now, all right?
Thank you.
Wait a second. Hey, hold up.
Hey. All we can do is live, brother.
Wow.
That was good.
That was good.
That was good.
That was good.
That was good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for those on Facebook Live for joining us. Thank you for those on the panel for joining us. Let us close out in prayer. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you again for being God and being God all by yourself. And as we come through this holy week, Maundy Thursday, and tomorrow on Good Friday, and Sunday is Resurrection Sunday, we thank you for all that you've done for us and all that you're doing for us. We're praying to God for those names that were called earlier, those who are sick and shut in, those who are grieved by the hands of death. Praying for those students at Florida State University, praying for parents and loved ones that have to deal with this situation. We're praying to God for every member on this panel, that you will continue to watch over us and keep us from all hurt, harm, and danger. We pray to God for every listener, every viewer that join us each and every week. Praying to God you will continue to cover us. And Lord God, when it's all said and done, we pray to God you give us a place somewhere in your kingdom. We will not cease to give your name, the praise, the honor, and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. 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 If it's God's will, we'll see you next week. We're off.